Azure supplies or supports a REST-based API for everything. And honestly, if you didn't know that and you've gone through this entire course, I'm going to feel pretty bad because I should have made that clear already. All right, so we've got this REST API, and that's at really the heart of all the communications, but we're using tools on top of that, right? But always keep that in mind, that you do have that ability. Everything you're doing, you can go and you can use a REST API. You've got the common verbs that are part of that concept of the REST API, the get, the post, the put, the delete, and additional commands or verbs that are available to you. Okay, and so all of these, by the way, are performed using SSL, so you've got a secure communications. Okay, now what's really important with this is not so much that, okay, the features that are in the portal are going to be in the API, right? But the fact that even your command line tools, PowerShell, and it's kind of the first time this guy's been mentioned, but I want to give this particular set of tools a little bit of mention here, the cross-platform client tools. I actually love these tools. These are exactly what they sound like. They're a set of command line tools that are cross-platform. And I've done a lot of this from the Linux client, and I actually really like, there's a certain cleanness, certain clarity in the cross-platform client tools that are really pretty cool. They do a similar thing to the PowerShell, but they're not PowerShell. All right, they're both very powerful, but both of these are actually built on top of the REST API, right? So when I go in and I use a PowerShell commandlet, that PowerShell commandlet, at its heart, is actually using the REST API and communicating back to Azure that way. And one of the really interesting things is that there is a debug option that's available both for the PowerShell and also for the cross-plat client tools. Okay? And what that'll do is give you information on the actual API calls that were being used. And you could use this if I'm making a call, using the the PowerShell commandlet. So let's say I run get Azure VM, and it's returning an error, but I can't understand why that is. I can add the debug, and it'll give me more information on the calls that were actually made and why that may be a problem. Also, if you just want to see what the calls are, you can add that in. And you can see it's a slightly different syntax, or it's actually a completely different syntax, whether you are using the Azure cross-plat client tools or if you're using the PowerShell tools. Obviously, of course, you also have a complete reference to the entire REST API with documentation and examples. I will tell you personally, the one thing that I think is a little weak on the documentation is how you authenticate with the REST API. But there are some good blogs that actually go through a process and lay it out very specifically, including the code that you would need to do that. Other than that, right, if you make the assumption that, oh, I'm connected and everything's good, then the REST API documentation is actually very strong.